Okay, welcome. I hope that you did well with translating those recordings into numerical notation. What we are going to do now is go over each of them in full detail if you had questions on any of them. We're going to start with number 1. The first one talked about the difference of 6x and 3y. We noticed in the very beginning from the first word the word difference. Difference meaning that we are going to be subtracting. So right off the bat we know that we're going to be subtracting something. When we look further on in the problem, it says that we are going to be subtracting 6x and 3y. So therefore number 1 should look like this, 6x and then 3y. So number 1, the difference meaning again that we're subtracting 6x and 3y. Number 2, it said negative 7y less than 3x. Less meaning that the number is dropping, decreasing. Less, decreasing, meaning difference, which means subtraction. So again, on number 2, we are going to be subtracting 2 items. Those 2 items are negative 7y and 3x. Questions? Okay. Number 3 says 1/9 of y. Of meaning that we are multiplying. Now when we multiply, we normally use x, but since again we are in algebra, x is now being used as a variable, so we no longer use the x for multiplication. So I'm going to cross that off. We now use either the dot or we use parentheses. Each one is perfectly fine to use for right now. So therefore, if we look further in this problem, it says 1/9 of y. Of meaning that we're multiplying, and those 2 items that we're multiplying are 1/9 and y. Now since we have a numerical value here and a variable, we are not allowed to keep this written as such. We need to change this. The dot is not allowed when we use a coefficient and a variable, so therefore we need to rewrite this as 1/9 y. There is no multiplication symbol in the center, but it is understood that these 2 are being multiplied as above. We have a negative 7 times y. There is no multiplication symbol here. There's no multiplication symbol here. No multiplication symbol here or here, but all 4 of these are separated by multiplication. Okay, so for number 3, your final answer should be 1/9 of y, or 1/9 y. Okay. Number 4 says the product of A and BC. Product meaning that we are going to be multiplying. So therefore, we should be using either the dot or the parentheses. Either one doesn't matter right now. The 2 things that we are multiplying together are the negative A and the BC. So therefore, we can write this as such, negative A times BC. But as mentioned above, we need to change this so that we no longer have this dot here. So we change this to a negative A, B, C. So again, notice here, we went from the dot being there to the dot no longer being there. But as we know, when we look at this, we know that that negative A is multiplying the BC. If we look further, we also notice that the B and the C are also being multiplied together. Okay? Number 5 says the product of the quantity x minus 3 and the quantity of x plus 7. As mentioned before, product meaning that we are multiplying. So we know that we're multiplying some things together. When we see the word quantity right here, that means that we have a group of things, and so therefore we need to be using our grouping symbols. So in our grouping symbols we use parentheses. So the same thing applies right here. We see the word quantity again. We're going to be using grouping symbols. So for the first part it says the product of the quantity x minus 3. So the first item that we're multiplying together is a group, and that group is x minus 3. And meaning this is now our second item. Okay, and separates things. So we see the quantity of x plus 3y. Quantity again, meaning parentheses, x plus 7y. Okay. Like before, we really don't need that dot right there, because it is understood that anytime you have two parentheses that are together and there is no space in between, or there is a space in between with nothing else, it's understood that there is invisible multiplication going on there. A way of thinking about that is that when the parentheses come to an almost meet join right here where they intersect, they kind of do form a little bit of an x. X again meaning multiplication. So to rewrite this, we need to have the quantity x minus 3y times the quantity x plus 7y. So that would be the final product, or should I say the final answer for number 5. Number 6 says the quotient of 3 and 3, or sorry, the quotient of y and 3x. Quotient meaning that we are going to be dividing right here. And normally when we talk in algebra terms, we no longer use the symbol for division. When we're talking algebra terms, we need to use that fraction bar. So quotient now means we're going to have a fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and write my fraction bar here. Now since of comes after the quotient, this does not mean that we're doing a product. Of in this case is just telling you what we're going to use. So the quotient of y and 3x. Again, the and here is saying that this is the second item that we're using. So therefore the first item, our numerator, is going to be y, and our denominator in this case is going to be 3x. Okay, so again, quotient, we have a fraction. Of the first item is y, and our second item is 3x, which is what we see in our denominator here. Number 7, the quotient of the difference of a and b and c. Now remember in the recording when I read this, I read the quotient of the difference of a and b and c. I paused. The reason for the pausing here is that word and meaning that's going to be a second item. So let's go back to the beginning. Read here, we have quotient. Quotient again meaning that we're going to divide something. Of the difference, difference meaning that we're subtracting. So of meaning that this is our first item. In the first item, we're going to be subtracting something. So in our numerator, I'm going to put a subtraction symbol there. The difference meaning that we're subtracting two items, two or more items. Those items are listed right here, A and B. So in our numerator, we're going to actually be subtracting A and B. The word and, meaning that this is our second item, that C is going to be our second item of the quotient, which means that C is going to be our denominator. So I'm going to put C in our denominator. So again, it says the quotient meaning that we have the fraction bar here, of the difference meaning that we are going to subtract A and B, so we see that right here, and and meaning that's our denominator, our second part of the equation or our expression, is c. So c is in the denominator. Next, last one, the quotient of the quantity of x plus 3 and the quantity of 3x minus y. So if we look at this one, quotient meaning that we again are dividing, meaning that we need a fraction bar, of meaning that this is our first item. Our first item is a quantity, so we need to look at a certain set of things. Our first set is x plus 3y. So therefore, quantity, again, we got to use those grouping symbols. Our first quantity is x plus 3y. When we see that word and meaning that this is our second item, okay, the second item is also a quantity. Quantity meaning, again, we got to have those grouping symbols, of 3x minus y, meaning that that's going to go into our denominator. So let's reread this again. The quotient meaning dividing, of the quantity, this is our first item. First item's right here, x plus 3y, and meaning that this is our second part of the quotient. The quantity, again, grouping symbols right here, and the item inside those grouping symbols is 3x minus y. Again, if you need to replay this video, please do so. If you have questions, go ahead and give me an email, or you can wait till Monday. Thank you.